Look, it's relief for one person. It's relief for one person, and it's Stephanie White. Let's be completely honest. Like, it is not a relief for Aaliyah Boston knowing for a fact Caitlin Clark is out. Like, it's not some sort of, oh, you know what, that's a relief. You know, we don't even have to wonder whether or when Caitlin's coming back. We just know she's not coming back. Like, there's no relief in that.
The WNBA finds itself once again under intense scrutiny, but this time it's not about controversial calls or on-court altercations. It's about something far more troubling. The relationship between Indiana Fever head coach, what should have been a dream coaching scenario, has morphed into something that looks increasingly like a nightmare for Caitlin Clark and her devoted fan base.
Stephanie White has chosen Kelsey Mitchell over Caitlin Clark, and that's just flat out the truth. Stephanie White wants to run this offense through Kelsey Mitchell, and she says it herself right here. She wants Kelsey Mitchell to keep firing. At one point in the game, Kelsey Mitchell was 2 for 14. And we already know Caitlin Clark came out on the Sue Bird podcast and said
evidence is mounting, and it's becoming impossible to ignore the uncomfortable reality. Stephanie White might actually prefer coaching the Indiana Fever without their biggest star on the floor. If you are enjoying, please subscribe. The bombshell moment came when Stephanie White made what can only be described as one of the most tone-deaf statements in recent WNBA history. Speaking about Caitlin Clark,
the Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston deadly connection, pick and roll, two-man game connection that has worked this whole season, gone. Poof. The one thing that was in existence that actually worked, that felt like a little bit of something offensive that worked, gone.
Being sidelined indefinitely with injury, White revealed her true feelings about the situation. "I think that's big," White said when discussing Clark's absence, providing clarity for the team. "Just the mindset of our group to know that we've got what we've got to continue to grow and connect in those ways." But it was what she said next that, truly, the situation provides a sense of relief and focus for the team. Relief. Let that word sink in. The head coach of the Indiana Fever just admitted that having Caitlin Clark, the league's biggest draw, the player who single-handedly saved the franchise from irrelevance, out of the lineup, provides relief for the team. This isn't just poor word choice or a misstatement. This is a revealing...
I think that's big. Head coach Stephanie White agreed. Just the mindset of our group to know what we've got, what we got, to continue to grow and connect in those ways. And is she available? Is she not available? Will she practice? Will she not practice? And that's a sort of disruption that comes with that. So there's clarity, and I think it's good for everybody. It's good for Caitlin too. She doesn't feel any kind of way. She can just approach and attack her rehab one day at a time. I think this is crazy. I think it's crazy trying to make it
into the mind of a coach who seems fundamentally uncomfortable with coaching a generational talent. When your star player brings in millions of viewers, sells out arenas, and generates more revenue than the rest of the league combined, the last thing you should feel when she's injured is relief. White's concerning comments about Clark didn't stop.
She just sits here and tells you, oh, it's better than we know. You knew last week. You knew 10 days ago. You knew dating back to the 14th of July when the injury happened. You knew it then. You knew that she was not going to be able to play. But y'all ran with this narrative. You continue to do it. Oh, it's day to day, or it's this. No, you always knew. So you making some excuse now for why you don't play well? That's on you, Steph.
In multiple instances throughout the season, she has made statements that suggest she believes the team functions better without their superstar. When asked about how the team plays with and without Clark, White made another eyebrow-raising observation. She claimed that without Clark, the team does more off-ball actions, which prompts faster ball movements. She added that without their all-star captain, they give up size on defense, but have more speed.
Things. I think they worded it in a really weird way, being like, oh, you know, it's going to help us knowing that she's officially out. Like, let's be real, it's a groin injury. She's not going to be out. She was not going to be back for the Vegas game. She was not going to be back for the last Liberty game. She's not going to be back for the Liberty game before that. She's not going to be, we know she's not going to be back for the Sky game. Like, we know she's not going to be back until at least like the 8th of August. At least the 5th of August. Let's be real. At least the 5th of August. So, like, I'm sorry, but how is it a relief knowing the Caitlin, not having to worry about whether Caitlin will or won't practice? You know she's not.
These comments sparked immediate outrage from fans who couldn't believe what they were hearing. So, Ball moves quicker, and we're better on defense. Nice. Why do they even need Caitlin? The comment might be sarcastic, but the underlying concern was real. Their coach was essentially arguing that the team played better basketball without their best player. The pattern continued with White's observations about the team's defensive improvement in Clark's absence. I think first and foremost, defensively, we've been better. White admitted when discussing the team's performance without Clark. She praised their consistency in coverages and high attention to detail when Clark wasn't on the floor. Perhaps most disturbing is White's apparent obsession with creating a team identity that doesn't revolve around Caitlin Clark. Throughout Clark's various injury absences, White has repeatedly emphasized how the team has found a little bit more.
Let me tell you something. Y'all do not move the ball better without my Caitlin Clark, aka my precious CC. At the end of the day, y'all have only won 4 games and recorded 4 games where y'all had 20 assists as a team at the end of the day. Caitlin Clark, aka my precious CC, she averages 7 to 9 assists a game. You hear me? Because she moves the ball and get everybody open, because everybody and their mama and their grandma be double teaming and triple teaming her, and her team is lazy when it comes to setting screens for her.
Defensively without their star. This obsession with ball movement without Clark reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of what makes great basketball teams successful. The San Antonio Spurs didn't win championships by moving the ball without Tim Duncan. The Golden State Warriors didn't revolutionize basketball by playing without Stephen Curry. Great teams build their identity around their superstars, not in spite of them. Yet, White seems determined to prove that the Fever can be successful without relying on Clark, as if having a generational talent is somehow a weakness to overcome rather than a strength to maximize. White's questionable.
Because without her, they get to play that slow down, walk the ball up the floor basketball that she likes to play over the breakneck, let's run this ball down the floor type of basketball that Caitlin Clark and the team actually likes to play. But you sitting here saying, oh yeah, well, we know what we got going forward. You guys have been the one with the nonsense. So what is the real injury? What's the real
decision-making extends beyond her public comments into her actual coaching decisions. When Clark returned from her groin injury, White made the unprecedented decision to move her off the ball and start Ari McDonald alongside her. This decision was met with widespread criticism from fans who recognized it for what it was, an attempt to diminish Clark's role in the offense. The strategic incompetence goes deeper. White has consistently failed to put Clark in positions to succeed, instead, forcing her into roles that limit her impact. This isn't player development. It's player suppression disguised as coaching strategy. Perhaps most telling was White's complete omission of Caitlin Clark when asked to name the vocal leaders in the locker room. Despite Clark being the team captain and the face of the franchise, White highlighted Sophie Cunningham, Sydney Colson, and Aaliyah Boston. White praised Cunningham's ambitious personality and called her a natural connector while recognizing Colson and Boston as voices of reason. But Clark, the player who had transformed the entire organization and brought unprecedented attention to women's basketball, didn't merit a mention. This snub wasn't accidental. It was a deliberate choice.
What it is that her philosophy just doesn't work with Caitlin Clark. And probably in her mind, she's thinking, okay, she's going to be this, that, and the third if with my philosophy, but actually it hurts her game. This whole off ball is supposed to take away her turnovers away, limit her turnovers, and get better shot selection so she get a higher percentage. That's her mindset. Here's the issue. Her teammates don't pass the ball. That's the problem. That's the coach's fault, my opinion. Stephanie, don't you see that her teammates don't really pass her the ball? That's why she's frustrated. That's why she gets mad. That's why she I see it all the time. And I do it while, you know what's funny? When she goes,
It revealed White's true feelings about Clark's role within the team structure. A coach who truly valued her superstar wouldn't forget to mention her when discussing team leadership. White's handling of Clark's multiple injuries throughout the season has raised serious questions about her priorities. While publicly claiming to take a Longami approach to Clark's health, her actions and statements suggest a different motivation. When Clark was dealing with her groin injury, White's updates were consistently vague and unhelpful. This lack of communication and apparent disinterest in her star players' condition stands in stark contrast to how successful coaches typically handle their franchise players. Great coaches are intimately involved in every aspect of their superstars' recovery process. They don't casually admit to not speaking with medical staff about their most important players' status. The consequences of White's approach are already becoming apparent. Fever fans who initially celebrated White's hiring as the return of a coach who got it are now expressing serious concerns about her ability to maximize Clark's talents. "I won't be listening to her willingly anymore," wrote one disillusioned fan after White's comments about improved ball movement without Clark. Another sarcastically asked, "Sides, is that you?" A reference to former coach Christy Sides, who was fired partly due to her inability to properly utilize Clark. The comparison to Sides is particularly damning because it suggests that White might be making the same fundamental mistakes that led to her predecessor's dismissal.
She does not want Caitlin Clark being the main player. She does not want Caitlin Clark being that dog on this team. And she's made the decision that this is Kelsey Mitchell's team. It just is what it is, man. It is what it is. We know, we heard Caitlin Clark come out and say herself that Stephanie White don't want her shooting. We've heard that. We've heard that out of her mouth.
The difference is that White's mistakes seem more calculated, more deliberate, as if she's actively trying to minimize Clark's importance to the team's success. White's treatment of Clark fits into a broader pattern of disrespect that Clark has faced throughout her professional career. From the moment she entered the WNBA, veteran players and coaches have seemed determined to put her in her place rather than celebrate her extraordinary talents. What makes White's approach particularly glowing is that she should know better. As a former WNBA player and coach, White understands the business side of the league. She knows that Clark's presence has single-handedly elevated the Fever from irrelevance to must-see television. She's aware that when Clark was injured earlier in the season, nationally televised games saw a 55% drop in ratings. Yet, despite this knowledge, White continues to make
It's better that Caitlin Clark is not playing. I don't know, but I'll let y'all listen to it, and you let me know what you think. Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of Rudy's Rant, Her Game, Her Way, Women's Basketball. We talk facts over feelings. I'm your host, Rudy Rodriguez Show. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, leave a comment. Appreciate y'all continued support of the channel. So let's just jump right on in on this one.
Statements and decisions that suggest she views Clark as more of a problem to be managed than a franchise icon talent to be celebrated and maximized. White's obsession with championship experience has become another way she diminishes Clark's contributions to the team. She repeatedly emphasizes the importance of veterans like Natasha Howard and Sydney Colson, suggesting they're more crucial to the team's success than younger stars like Clark Aaliyah, Boston, and Kelsey Mitchell. Certainly, there's no substitute for experience, White said, after a loss to the Liberty. Tosh and Sid are the ones on our team who have championship caliber experience, so you've got to go through it. This constant emphasis on experience over talent sends a clear message. White values role players with championship rings more than she values the generational talent that has transformed her franchise. It's a backwards way of thinking that
Let that sink in. James Harden ain't won nothing. He just a hooper. At the end of the day, he don't get his team over the hump, and he turnover prone. At the end of the day, he can't, when it comes to clutch time, he can't elevate his team. I've seen it plenty of times. He played for my Houston Rockets. He couldn't get them over the hump because his style of play. Kobe Bryant said it best. His style of play would never win a championship. Kelsey Mitchell's style of play would never win a championship. That Indiana Fever team is selfish. You hear me? Selfish. Ari McDonald, all she care about is putting the ball in the hoop. Everybody want to score.
prioritizes past accomplishments over present ability and future potential. Caitlin Clark has been out for weeks now, and it's becoming increasingly clear that Stephanie White doesn't miss her. The coach's comments about relief and focus when Clark is sidelined reveal a fundamental disconnect between what the franchise needs and what White wants to provide. Clark needs a coach who recognizes her genius and builds systems to max impact. She needs someone who understands that having a player of her caliber is a gift, not a burden. She needs a coach who will fight for her, protect her, and position her for success rather than trying to prove the team can win without her. Instead, she has Stephanie White, a coach who seems more interested in proving her own tactical sophistication than in unleashing one of the greatest talents the women's game has ever seen. White's approach isn't just failing Clark, it's failing the entire organization and everyone who has invested emotionally and financially in this team's success. The evidence is overwhelming and the pattern is undeniable. Stephanie White's agenda has been exposed, and it's not aligned with what's best for Caitlin Clark.
Let that sink in. James Harden ain't won nothing. He just a hooper. At the end of the day, he don't get his team over the hump, and he turnover prone. At the end of the day, he can't, when it comes to clutch time, he can't elevate his team. I've seen it plenty of times. He played for my Houston Rockets. He couldn't get them over the hump because his style of play. Kobe Bryant said it best. His style of play would never win a championship. Kelsey Mitchell's style of play would never win a championship. That Indiana Fever team is
Or the
self.
Indiana Fever. The question now is whether the organization will recognize this fundamental problem before it's too late, or whether they'll continue to enable a coach whose vision for success apparently doesn't include maximizing their generational talent. Fans are running out of patience, and rightfully so. They've watched their favorite player get systematically underutilized by a coach who seems more comfortable talking about how the team functions without her than celebrating what she brings when she's healthy and on the court. This isn't coaching, it's sabotage disguised as strategy, and it needs to stop before it destroys what could have been a beautiful partnership between a generational talent and her franchise. The clock is ticking, and every day that passes with White making comments about relief and improved ball movement without Clark is another day that damages this relationship beyond repair. Caitlin Clark deserves better. The fans deserve better, and the Indiana Fever deserve a coach who sees their superstar as the solution, not the